let's talk about some of the stuff that you're doing from your, your consulting and your industry thought leadership as it relates to topics like micro fulfillment, last mile delivery, all of the things that you have really single-handedly taught me about as like, this is the future of grocery retail.
Well, certainly we're seeing more growth in micro fulfillment. HEB, they just opened up their sixth micro fulfillment center. They're going to open up the new store that they built in Plano, Texas. That opens, I think, November 2nd. That is the most advanced grocery store in the world. HEB put a micro fulfillment center right inside that store. And I went in there. I actually went in and took pictures of it. And it's just fascinating how they did it. So HEB can arguably say nobody has a more advanced store in the world than we do. And that's going to generate a lot of interest from other retailers who are going to say, you know what, micro fulfillment does make sense. And when I started writing about this 3 years ago, I designed one of the first micro fulfillment centers in 2013. And I always stated it would be about 2022, 2023 before the industry really woke up and said, yes, this is something important. We should do this. A company called Adabotics out of Canada, I think they are rising to the occasion. I think they're becoming the best of the best out there. I'm a big fan of the company. I'm a big fan of their CEO, Scott Gravel. And I really anticipate that Adabotics is going to do some big things before the end of the year and certainly into 2023 and 2024. And I think what Adabotics is going to do is create this business model that I created called micro fulfillment as a service, where retailers, any retailer, brands that don't want to invest in the robotics, they would just simply contract Adabotics. Adabotics will put their micro fulfillment centers in warehouses, and you just send the inventory to that warehouse, and Adabotics leverages their micro fulfillment to do the fulfillment and actually then do the delivery. So that's interesting. The biggest thing I've been working on is I used to live in Saudi Arabia. And so I've been working with some individuals over there on a project called NEOM. It's going to be the world's largest vertical city, or horizontal city, I should say. It's going to stretch for miles, over 70 miles. And so in order for that to happen in Saudi Arabia, they need a completely new type of logistics. So I've been working on what I call the subterranean logistics model, where everything that happens above ground today, I move it underground, leveraging autonomous vehicles, a series of tunnels, designing vehicles. I designed a bus that basically can go through a tunnel or switch to go from driving on tires to just going on rail and then easily coming off the rail and going back to driving. So I've been working on that. It's really complex stuff. And I have some more discussions with NEOM coming up. But I also designed it because I believe what they can create in NEOM in Saudi Arabia is eventually going to be able to be leveraged for people who want to colonize planets in space. Now, it's funny to be talking about that, but there are people who are bound and determined to make that happen. Well, you can't build on a planet in space like you do in the US. You're not going to have cranes and skyscrapers. But if you take it below ground, then, and I think this is where the stuff that I'm designing for NEOM and other people are designing eventually has the ability to be copied and leveraged in space, but also to be able to be copied and leveraged in other cities around the world. So that's the thing I've been working on. It's been really a lot of fun to work on that.
You always surprise me, I should say. Like, I really was not expecting you to say that you're working on how to build cities in space, but why not? Of course. Like, why wouldn't you be? So when you came on at the top of the year and we kind of kicked off our 2022 content with like what to expect in your grocery retail experience, one of the things we talked about was the metaverse. And Brittain, you'd be mad at me because I've done nothing for the Produce Mom strategy on the metaverse. And you told me, get moving on it. And so where does that stand now? I mean, I just read something from the Facebook summit where analysts in the tech world were kind of, they were being pretty critical of the metaverse, saying that it doesn't have just like the user experience or the audience penetration that Mark Zuckerberg and other, metaverse pioneers thought it would. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
The reason why the metaverse hasn't progressed anywhere near as much as I thought is Mark Zuckerberg surprised me with something I had myself convinced that, and the way I came up with my strategy, I said, well, if I'm Mark Zuckerberg and I'm running Facebook, how would I build the metaverse? I came up with a strategy where I said I was going to make Sheryl Sandberg the CEO of Facebook. And then me as Mark Zuckerberg would step down and I would create a separate company outside of Facebook called Meta. And I'd partner with Microsoft and I'd partner with Palantir and these other companies. And together we'd pool our capital, our investments. We'd be a private company. And so out of the view of the press and the public, we would create the metaverse. Well, that didn't happen. So now you have someone, Mark Zuckerberg, trying to run Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook and Meta. Something had to give. And when I looked at the fact that Mark Zuckerberg decided to do it that way, I stopped writing about the metaverse. And people said, why aren't you writing about the metaverse? I said, because there's no way it's going to become a reality now. I said, this is an absolute disaster. I said, how do you build the world's next biggest thing while you're running another company? I said, you're either in all the way or you're not. There's no such thing as tiptoeing to create the metaverse. And Mark Zuckerberg's trying to do that. So I wrote a post not too long ago where I said, should Mark Zuckerberg step down? And I titled it Killing Facebook, because I'm really convinced that Zuckerberg has taken a bite that he can't chew. He's taken off more than he can chew. And I really think he's putting the entire company at risk. And so when I've looked at the graphics and people from Facebook have reached out to me and Meta have reached out to me, they all read my stuff and they're like, yes, this is the problem. We're trying to do too much and we're not doing the right things for all the companies. And what fascinates me the most, Facebook has 3.5 billion customers. The metaverse has zero honest customers. The metaverse doesn't exist. So that's why I thought Zuckerberg was going to protect the 3.5 billion customers he has, let Sheryl Sandberg run everything, and he steps aside and creates a private company, Meta. And because that didn't happen, I really think that the metaverse is years behind where it eventually should have been already.
You know, even just anecdotally here in my own household, talking to my kids about it, they're like, no, like, you know, is that the same as TikTok? You know, that's kind of their response to me. But so it's no, it's interesting. I'm glad I asked the question because that's kind of the vibe I've received. And so it's nice to hear from you that, you know, we're pretty much all on the same page with this topic.
Yeah. And the reason why he went down this path, and you just said it, I've always said to people have asked me, they're like, why did he suddenly want to do the metaverse? Why did he want that? And I said 2 words, TikTok. When TikTok came along, they immediately became a predator to Facebook. And up until that point, there were competitors of Facebook, but they never had a predator. TikTok's a predator. They really are already taking customers from Facebook. They're taking customers from Google. And they're really a platform still in its infancy. So there's a lot that they can do. So from a strategy ploy, a strategy position, what Zuckerberg said was, well, I'll create something then that's never existed. And even someone like TikTok can't do it. But again, you have to focus on that 100%.